All right, we are back. Gonna let people join while I say going live. It seems to be taking a second, anyways. Live now. Sweet. Okay. Oh, and the R key got stuck. That's good. All right. Still says no one's here, and I'm not sure if that makes sense. Not really. The Wi-Fi seems to be garbage. Good start. Let's get off Twitter. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna start sharing and talking, and the Wi-Fi will fix itself. And up now, all of a sudden, everything's working perfectly. Perfect. Yeah, welcome back. We are 10 days away from the NHL season. I'm 150 million miles behind, it feels like, but what are you gonna do? I'll just show what I'm using right now. Yeah, I'll go over a couple things in general. Let's just kind of get right into things. So, this is the Athletic. I edited it I hit it, but I edited it for the scoring system on drafters. This is what I've been using to draft. Um, I have different, lists for forwards, defensemen, goalies. I never plugged in the ADP because, frankly, I just don't think it was worth my time to actually try to update that. Like, does it really matter? But again, I got my list of these are my rankings, and since they're from Dom at the Athletic, I just used all of this stuff, typed in the scoring on drafters. The only real difference is it doesn't have overtime goals. Everything else seemed to work fine. Let me see. Yeah, let me pull up the settings tab. So 3 for a goal, 2 for assist, shots are 0.3. Let me just double check all this garbage quick. Honestly, I checked it a couple times, but where are we? Drafters Championship. I think this is all right. I just want to check it one more time before we get going. 3, 2, 0.3, 0.3, 0.5 for power play, 2 for shorthanded. I found that interesting. And we did actually get news today that Connor and Scheifele are killing power plays, which was interesting. So a little bit of fun. Yeah, it can't enter overtime goals, but in reality, last year's leader had like 6 overtime goals. So 6 points swings it in one direction or another. That just is what it is. Goalies are 2 for the win, 3 for a shutout, 0.2 for a save, -1 goal against. And that's it. So yeah, all of this is correct. And this is the rankings I'm using. So if you don't have Athletic, you kind of can't use this. But yeah, this is what I did. So yeah, I just I've been using these players. It's bumped up a lot. Kind of go over a little bit. Probably Crosby and Pedersen are two. It really bumped down Kaprizov. I don't know why, honestly. Like, I think it's because it assumes. Can I? Oh, I took a lot of this stuff out because it was just causing more headache than it was helping me. But it doesn't think he's going to get as many points as we do at Puck Luck. So I kind of just readjusted that in my head, to be honest. But Eichel, another guy that I'm drafting quite a bit of. Just, I think he's even better than that, to be honest. Like, a little bit, nothing crazy, but like, again, you'll kind of see like a bunch of players. And a lot of this, honestly, like, I don't know if others are using this as well. I think ADP has really shifted towards this. Aho, another one I drafted a ton of. Barkov. Some of these centers just seemingly don't get nabbed enough. Move this back. I don't even use the team comparison thing at all. I think I put that at the end, actually, and that's what's messed up. Defense, nothing that surprising here. I think maybe Dobson, but I don't even think that's that crazy. Like, I just like him more than have been in Fox, and I've been taking a good bit of Dobson just because I like where he is, and we agree with this at Puck Luck. So, yep, I know some people don't like him as much. Again, you can kind of do your own thing with this, but this is what I'm using for drafters. Again, it's, I don't know if you have the Athletic. I'll share it. If you use the Athletic, you can do this pretty freaking easily. I'll just share the link. Just in case anyone is sitting here like, wow, this would be really nice, and you are subscribed to the Athletic, which I'm guessing quite a few people that take in this kind of content would be. I don't know. Let's look. It should be easier to find. I don't know if this is really worth my time actually to be searching this live. Here's what I'll do. Let's take a peek really quick at drafters. Where's the lobby at? Needs 1, 2. Needs a bunch. I'm gonna join the lobby right now. If you're in There is, I think, like 3 people in. I'm gonna join the fast one for drafters, and then I'll wait. Needs 4 more, and I'll get the link just in case people were looking for this because yeah, it's like if you have the athletic, you just have this if you want it. I mean, I edited it a little bit, but not really all that much work. Took me just a few minutes to kind of get this where I wanted to go. Oh my god, please. Okay. It's causing me a nightmare right now. It's just like I think it's making everything run slower too. So I'm not gonna mess around with this. You know what? Actually, let's try this. Athletic Dom Fantasy. I realized the issue with searching on the athletic. I'm actually not logged in right now, it says, so it's giving me all these problems. Here it is. Boom. I'm not sharing it, but that's fine. So if you have the athletic, oh yeah, I can pull up Dougie here. Let me pull down a little bit. I think he's a little bit, yeah, he's right here. Again, it's I could pull up. Let me, you know what? I have it in here. I just again, it was kind of causing problems when I was messing with the data. It was like just breaking things, like if I did anything. But we could spend a quick second. He should be right about. Let's look. Strom Carlson should be right around here. And again, this is like not going to like it's going to assume all the forward, like a lot of forwards are better than a lot of defensemen. But like look at the scoring last year, and forwards massively outscored defensemen overall. But what was he again? He was just below John Carlson. Not that. Okay. Oh, of course. Reset. I can't see. Okay. Just below John Carlson. Marcus Oshum. Okay, I've gone too far. There's no way. Wait, what? Oh, this isn't in any order. God. Okay, Dougie Hamilton they had for. Oh, this is breaking it. Yeah, that's another thing. It had it all broken down weird by like raw points and stuff, and not the. So yeah, this is 69 games. That's really what's wrong with Dougie here. It's like this is actually really pretty bullish on players playing most of the season, and then Dougie just gets nuked in that capacity. So yeah, not great, not helpful for your Dougie slappies in the community. We're waiting on 3. So if you haven't joined yet, let me just let people on Twitter know I jumped in. A couple people were waiting. Any other questions about this? I mean, not that it's like probably that crazy. Waiting on in lobby now. Okay. Check the DFS slate quick. Boston scored. All right, great. Dead. Oh, Barzal, let's go. Okay, well, not dead. Hockey, yeah, waiting on 3. So if anyone else wants to jump in on drafters, because like you can't even like load it early, so I might as well not even show it. Let's go back. We can go through a couple more things. And again, this is just using Dom stuff. Have we seen if Dunder? I mean, I don't think we've seen anything concrete out of them yet. But my I think it's Montour to start. But honestly, the hardest part is it's a whole new coach and everything. Like last year, they ran 2 units so seemingly without care. Like they basically said Tolvanen is going to be a shooter and Bjorkstrand's going to be a shooter and McCann's going to be a shooter, and let's just like mess around with this stuff. Let me see if I've seen any. Let me just run through this. So you know what? I'll show you. I'll show you. Why don't I show my work? This way you can see. We can have maybe a learning moment as we wait for drafters. So let me just pull up where I want to be in the world, and then I'll reshare my screen. So if you're ever thinking, man, I would love to see where DJ's getting a lot of his garbage from, because he's finding these lines early. Maybe you want to bet on the preseason hockey. Maybe you want to, whatever. I go to this Giant Losers page. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but he's a Giant Loser. His name's Matt Moody. You click on these little 3 icons. You click View Lists. And we are actually going over some of this stuff today, getting more of these ready to go. Utah is there now. We got, I think, everyone that we could possibly find for Utah. Go to Seattle, and they should have all of their beat reporters. I normally just search like any player. Nah, it's not gonna. Yeah. Nope. Okay. So doesn't like that. So let me scroll all the way down. We'll see what we get. Is drafter started yet? We're still waiting for 3. That almost seems wrong. I guess not. But yeah, scrolling through this. Yeah, they played yesterday, or they played on the 23rd, and they played tonight. I think we might just have to wait till tonight to see what they run. I don't think we've actually seen like a true power play. I think it's going to be Montour to start, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's kind of pretty back and forth. And I'm drafting Dunn. Like I don't think there's any problem with Vince Dunn. What did they run last night? Their beat reporters just aren't giving us the goods. Could be another problem because I've been looking for this as well to try to find what did they run. They ran Beniers, Bjorkstrand, McCann. So this was their lineup last night. None of the defensemen were there, so it's not going to help us at all. Okay, yeah, I think we're just going to be SOL for now on knowing exactly what that's going to look like. If anyone's seen anything, maybe Matt's seen something that I haven't seen yet. We can wait on that, but I'll go back a little further, see if like I just don't think we're going to find anything. But this is normally how we do things. I'm expecting Bjorkstrand, McCann, Beniers, honestly, to stay on the power play together. Yep, that's the last time they ran a power play. Yep, it's not going to be Riker Evans. So that's just what they ran for the game. That's just, yeah. They're basically saying, like, we're going to get the young guys out there with Beniers and McCann and see what they can do and then work from there. And yeah, so tough break for us. Waiting on 2 more for drafters. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get, I don't know how far back we'd have to go to find anything. I mean, we're back to like start a training camp now, but that is how I normally find stuff. And Seattle's been a little bit tougher to suss out. So let's go back. We'll review some more of this sheet while we wait for one more person to join. I'll let Matt know too. It's going to be a little bit longer. And we'll get into drafters. So let's think if there's anyone else. Some of this is still broken, but yeah, when it does this, hold on, let me try to fix this again. Sometimes that'll just, it's not fixing it, but it's in the right order at least. It's not like, sometimes it was breaking where it was like bumping some random player up and then it was not giving me the right thing. But this actually doesn't look broken. It's just for some reason not putting the numbers in. I don't know why. Something's messed up, but I'm just not going to care to fix it because it seems fine. Kempy's kind of a guy. I mean, Robert Thomas, another just like absolute smash. I probably massively overexposed to him at this point. Let's look. My teams. I have 21 complete. That's one problem with this site is you just can't easily see like your exposure. Let's look at Thomas. Of my 21 completed teams, 14 of them have Robert Thomas. Well, if there's another, I guess there is. So let me just type in Robert Thomas. No, 13. Yeah, 13 teams. That's pretty crazy. Under your name? Oh, wow. I have never looked at that. That is crazy. I have never actually pulled this up. I've always just searched. My highest ownership, I have 50% Kairu, 36% Thomas. You know what? Why am I not just sharing my screen at this rate? All right. Stop and let's share. I like it more on the tab so I can. Okay. Kairu, Eichel, Thomas, Barzal, Tippett, Pedersen. Harley feels like a bit of a reach, honestly. Like I just think the goal scoring upside is interesting for him. Like he's getting a pretty big deterrent that I just don't think is justified. And like, well, again, like it's not even that it's like he might score the amount of points they say, but like in this system, I think his peaks will be high enough that it'll actually matter a bit more. Another player that stands out that's pretty random, I think, a lot of the top guys, it's kind of splitting hairs a lot of times. And I think that one thing that gets kind of lost on this is that like a lot of people are just jamming defensemen early. And I don't think the amount of points you're giving up by like it taking Makar. Oh, okay. Drafters is full. So let's get to that though. But I'm definitely going to be much lower on guys like Makar, which is unfortunate, honestly, because I'd rather get some of him. But in this system, it seems like he just got absolutely for. How is it? Honestly, the only problem with this site is just the constant nonsense. It's not that bad. It's just like some of this stuff, man. It's like, why does this happen this way? Okay, let's get into things. So, but yeah, I think that you're giving up way too much by taking defensemen early. Like the drop off between the top, 7 or 8 forwards to like getting like waiting like people that take defensemen like 2 in a row to start or like 2 in the top 3 rounds. Like I think you're missing out on way too many points that you're better, going to actually win this thing than taking a guy like Thomas Harley and like hoping to catch up at defense with like a smattering of guys and seemed to be proven last year. But the problem with last year is that Roman Josi was not going that early and getting like a Matthews, Kucherov, and Josi was doable, which is clearly not the case anymore. Just because Kucherov going so much later. So basically, you could get Matthews at like 4 and then get Kucherov and Josi because Josi was actually going that late and he just finished as defenseman 1. I don't think that's going to happen again. Like, I don't think we should take a full lesson from last year and say, like, all of this is actually true and going to happen again. I think we should take with the good parts of that and say, okay, I think the reason that was so powerful is because the best wingers were so easy, or best forwards were so easy to get with like McKinnon and like the clear guys that afterwards you could kind of make up for whatever, like make up all the ground you needed because a lot of teams that didn't have Josi were there as well. Like you just kind of needed those 2 guys and then the rest from there. So I'm just gonna use the rankings really quick. The rankings would tell me to take Draisaitl, which I don't love, but I'm gonna do it here. I'm just gonna end up way too low on the guy, and he's normally going 5th. Like I just don't know if I'm willing to say 0% Draisaitl. I probably only have 1 or 2. The points could come. He still is one of the best players in the world on him. And in this system, you're much more rewarded for points comparatively to shots. So I don't mind it. And then the next player, it's Jack Hughes. And I think it's so close between Jack Hughes and Kirill Kaprizov for me. I'm gonna bet on Jack Hughes here, and I'll go over why as we draft along. But yeah, it's razor thin. I'm getting a lot of Kaprizov too. I just think he's slipping a bit more. Also, I don't really like the screen placement. Let me move myself. Oh, actually, I don't like any of this. Is there a better like window to draft in? Am I stupid? Let's look. That's not helpful at all. Let's try this. This is better-ish. I just don't like drafting in this. Let's put myself up there. Okay, this is a little bit better. Who cares about where I am? I'd rather see some players. But anyways, so I'll just get into why I'm doing what I'm doing. So one thing about Kaprizov is it is a little bit tougher to stack, especially if we go off what they're using, is that he's probably with Zuccarello and not right now with Joel Eriksson Ek, and like boldly seems like a question mark. Whereas it's pretty easy to get Jack Hughes with his running mates. And Draisaitl's tough, but I don't mind maybe taking a flyer on a guy. But in reality, you're just Draisaitl is McDavid. Like that's the pairing that you just can't have. So I'm gonna run with it here. I'm just gonna kind of see how this start goes. But again, of these drafters, I just strongly disagree with this Makar Josi situation. Like you're not gonna get this guy's probably starting with like a Hyman or a Gensel or something, and I just don't think you're ever actually winning this contest. Like, just think about how many forwards should score a week, right? Like, again, going into this system right here, like, oh, I can't share both of them. But going back to the list of players, like, Cale Makar is technically 15th or 16th or 17th or something, like, total in, like, the amount of points he'll score. I just don't think you're missing out on all of the top 16 guys. Some of those guys that are pretty unmatched as far as their upside. Like, how do you actually fight your way back against? I just don't think you ever do. Like, well, you win defense. So let's just say that like you hit your peaks in those and you actually win defense by a big enough margin. Like you're still losing 130, 140, 150 points on most of these projectable players at the top. They're not all going to fail. I never see that getting there. Whereas like R is optimal or gets where you need to go. I'm not saying you couldn't win with Makar, but going two defensemen that early, I think is just objectively wrong. So yeah, for me, it's Pedersen here. I don't think this guy's taking Dahlin. I might grab him, honestly. If he takes Dahlin, what can I do? And he starts with Hyman. Eichel's probably my next favorite. I do think Dahlin is just a bit above the rest as far as upside is concerned. Like going back to these rankings, Dahlin is like 20 points below Yossi. It's like I can kind of see the scenario where Dahlin is defenseman one. Again, this has Dahlin as the fourth defenseman above Quinn Hughes, above everyone except for Makar, Yossi, and Bouchard. Yeah. So this is a question. Yeah, I mean, we're doing drafters first, but yeah, 12 people on Underdog, and that definitely changes a lot of what I'm doing as well. I'll get into some of that as we go. What the main differences are in my strategy, but yeah, Underdog. I mean, it's just completely different. It's a totally different ball game, and I think that took me a couple drafts to get used to as well. And the differences are, number one, forward, I think, is just unequivocally you have to get as much value as possible. Like, and it doesn't matter where the forward plays. Don't care about it. I never think about it. Like, they could be center, they could be winger, they could be a rover if they would like to, but don't care about where they play at all. I'm just going off of, again, the rankings I went over at the beginning. And using that to dictate, and I'm ending up with a lot more centers than I probably otherwise would, because again, 3 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. That bumps up players like Robert Thomas into the relevant, draftable. It's just very relevant comparatively to an Underdog, where he's still very relevant, but like he's your third center often, or your second center, and you're praying for this upside case. So here he's like actually pretty cohesive, especially with Kyrou getting there, which again has been I mentioned it, like clear strongest bet that I've made in this system. But the other thing about the fact that there's only 8 drafters is that goalies are much, much easier to come by. The spread between top goalies is even thinner, in my opinion. Like there's 3 goalies that have a 260-ish projection, and then it's 240. And then like you get down to guys like, Olmark is still 200. I know 60 points kind of sounds like 60 points is 60 points, but 60 points between the top goalie and the, like 14th goalie, like 15th, 16th goalie, like over the course of the entire year, I just don't think that matters that much. So this draft is kind of going away where I might take a goalie. I'll take the highest projection, which would be Ottinger. I'll do it here. I think that this has just been a lobby that's been very smart comparatively to most. But yeah, I'm not, I'm just going to take one of the elite goalies. I'm not taking 2 of them. There's a chance I could miss out on enough. And I do try to get one of, honestly, Ottinger is going to be one of my highest. Vassy is probably my second highest right now. But yeah. And then I don't mind jumping up and grabbing Aho. I said, that's one of my highest drafted players. That's one of the biggest values on the board. I think he'll rise quite a bit. We have Aho above guys like Bedard, Kyle Connor. Well, not we. I mean, the Athletic does, but like all the rest of my drafts, I'm probably going to use puck luck stuff. We're a little bit behind on this. We, as in Jay, and I don't want to say that negative. I'm trying to take some of the blame, although Jay does a lot of the work on the site. But there's a pretty big overhaul coming, which was supposed to kind of happen last year and never really got the home, but should be very close to happening now. So we'll have our rankings, which will just be the same scoring with the puck luck data, which you could technically manipulate. And I was going to try to do in this sheet, just plug it in, but it wasn't going to work. No need to get into the, and I already showed it actually. If you're here from the beginning, like it wasn't going to work because it literally can't. I'd have to do a lot more effort than I want to, when in reality, I think these rankings are pretty good. Like I think Dom Decision's pretty solid. So like, why am I going to go and do all this extra work? I'm just going to do my first like 35 drafts with his rankings and then my last as many as possible with puck luck and move on. But again, I think that Aho is one of the biggest values on the entire board. And like, you could definitely make an argument that, well, like, and again, like there's players a good example is probably honestly a Connor Bedard, that even if you give him the highest possible curve you can imagine as far as like his potential in year two, it's just so hard to see him getting 90 something points. And if you look at Sebastian Aho last year, he had 89 points. Like, I'm not saying Bedard could not possibly do it. There is a realm of possibility where Connor Bedard has 90 points, but like that seems really freaking steep. I just don't really know if it's necessary to draft him in this format more than a couple times, just because of I think that curve is monstrous. Of course, the other scenario here is that he could score in the lineup on some weeks or whatnot, but again, I'm just not that worried about it. Like I think over the course because like over the course of the entire year, you're still going to be more rewarded for drafting the best players overall. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. Stutzel goes. Right now, I have no correlation. Nothing's really standing out other than Jesper Bratt. So I'm just going to grab him to go with Jack Hughes. I know it's kind of up in the air. It's going to be Timo with Hughes. It's going to be Bratt with Hughes. I don't care. I'll just take Bratt. I think the upside's really, really high. We're not that worried about rates. He's right there with, it goes basically Connor, Larkin, then Bratt, then Wyatt Johnston, Ovi, Barzal. Like, I still think it's a value. I'm not that worried about it. Right now, I'm sitting here with a 5-1-1. I don't have anyone on this team yet, but a guy that I believe is ranked. Let's just take a peek. I believe the next guy up on defense by a small margin. Technically, it's Eric Carlson, but I'm going to take Morgan Riley. Just super high on this guy in this format. Like, he should be running that power play in every capacity, and I'm just not that worried about, like, I know there's like OEL and stuff and they're players, but I'm not that worried about like him actually stealing much of the work. Let me just take 2 seconds here to let Matt know it's going to be a couple minutes. Just because I don't really want him to be annoyed if I bring him in and he can't play. I mean, if you're wondering why Matt just like has no interest, he literally cannot play in Pennsylvania. So he just is like, why would I join and talk nonsense for, I can't even do this. Maybe he loves the format, and that's the problem. Is he absolutely loves the format. I'll go over a few reasons why I love drafters. Number one, they seem to actually care about hockey, and I don't even think that's on purpose. Like, I think that they wish and pray and hope every day that they can take over a bit more of the football market. That's where all the money is, but they just haven't been able to do it exactly. And hockey is taking off. They can play it in Ontario. More and more people are finding out about this format. It's infinitely more fun than playing in a season-long league. I know some people love the leagues. I'm in one that I honestly think about leaving, but I just can't because I love the people in it so much. Just, you don't have to, you just draft and forget. And you can draft, if you're actually a high stakes player, you can put in $1,000 and come out with, who knows, right? Like, you could conceivably win 5,000, like you can 5x, and like that might be worth your time and investment, especially if you enjoy doing this kind of stuff, which I do. I know Matt doesn't enjoy it as much as I do, but I actually really enjoy it. So I have no problem, wasting or spending a bunch of my time doing this kind of stuff. Just taking a look at the rankings quick. And again, like, I think this draft is sharper and maybe using some of the stuff I said, because this is definitely going in like what I think is a more cogent way. I'm actually going to grab Sorokin. I'm not that worried about the injury. I know it's a little bit concerning, like hasn't started yet or whatever, and hasn't really practiced a ton, but like they make it seem like he's not that bad. Oh, nice. Islanders up 2-0. Good to see. Montreal took the lead. Love to see it. Not needed. Washington stinks. So let's take a look at the turn. Man, I mean, I love Fiala. I love Kyrou. Let's take a peek who they have. I think it's Kyrou. Yeah, it's Kyrou. So I'm going to take Jordan Kyrou, who again I just have ranked a good bit higher. This is 622. Is I get to this point quite a bit, and I'm not that worried. I think I have two of the best. I think this draft is going exactly how I'd like it to go, except maybe correlation. talk a little bit about it. I think you can make the argument both ways on the value of correlation, and I kind of come to one conclusion from that. So on one hand, you could say it's more important because over the course of the entire season, if one player reaches this level that they need to reach, again, think of like Kucherov last year and how important having Braden Point was with that. And like, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think that only goes so far. I wouldn't go insane and say like, especially as drafts kind of wind down, I think we'll see more of this in both formats where people are saying, okay, well, I don't have a Kucherov, Gensel, and Braden Point. And the only way to really do that is to take them all within the first like 4 rounds or whatever. And just like completely forgetting about the rest. Like I would never do that because I think you're giving up a little bit too much upside for the sake of trying to capture this correlation, which while could be powerful, I think it's never going to lead to, especially in a 5,000 entry tournament, to the peak that you could have because the odds that the winner, like the winning top 5 teams, is probably going to all have a pretty similar top 4 rounds, not identical, but I bet at least 2, if not 3, will be in most of the top 5. I just can't imagine many scenarios where you're using up a lot of that early capital and still winning if you're drafting non-optimally, for example. Why that leads me back to sort of this like Jack Hughes situation is it's a lot easier to find those guys and kind of plug them in. I don't think it's ultra specific. Of course, Nico Hischier is probably the weakest in that variety, but like Bratt, Timo, Dougie, all of them are pretty doable. All of them find it kind of plug and play as much as you wish. I think it's important, but I definitely don't think you should say like, "Oh, I don't have a Leaf yet. I'm just not taking Morgan Riley." If he's your next top guy and Morgan Riley gets there, like, yeah, it's more likely the Matthews team finds its way, I guess, but I don't think it's like this, it's not like a mortal lock. It's not guaranteed. Um, I don't have any Sergachev yet. We did see him on the top power play. I know Jersey scored twice, but I'm actually going to grab one here. I kind of wanted to get to this. Oh my God, Robert Thomas, you son of a fuck. Well, what are you gonna do? I could cry. I might cry. Um, I think I'm gonna take my first Tavares share, get that Morgan Riley, whatever. I mean, again, like I was honestly gonna take Robert Thomas at 90, which is how I've been getting so much of him. Is just taking him there and just moving on. But there goes my next. And then it's funny because like I just keep picking Kyrie early and then Thomas early. But again, that's a correlation I think is just massively mispriced. And when it peaks at the right times, could it carry my lineup towards the top if I can get kind of the right system in the beginning, which you could make a debate on a lot of these guys. I don't really see Matt McDavid being matched too much, and he wasn't anywhere near the top last year, but he missed time. He dished off a lot to Hyman, but that time he missed kind of killed him completely. And at that point, it was pretty much over for him to actually peak in the system. Injuries will be a killer. Another reason why I think that you have to spread your exposure at the beginning. I'm not going to be too in the weeds on anything, just hyper focusing on any specific players, kind of take what the board gives me at the top, just like I do an underdog. But I think it's even more prevalent when you're drafting a lot of teams here because one injury is probably just shipping your entire build completely. Can't, which at the beginning you kind of make an argument against maybe a guy like Sorokin, but I have Ottinger, right? I mean, I'm not that worried about Ottinger losing a ton of run at the beginning of the season. And I don't think you really like honestly, I could consider not taking another goalie. I took a look at Olmark. I think it's a great value. And like Binnington, Olmark at that point were good values at 90, but you don't need to do it for the sake of doing it. But I think I'm going to get to, 10-3 or 10-5-3 as much as possible. I do have a couple 2 goalie teams. I'll probably have a couple 9 forward teams with just like I have started like literally 7 forwards like off the rip, and I don't care. I'm fine with that. So, a guy I've taken like 0 of, and I just am not ultra high on, but to go with Darlene, I'm going to grab an Alex Tuck at 103. Just again, kind of getting a couple guys I don't have a ton of with guys I do have a lot of. Like I have been drafting a good bit of Darlene. Like I said, I have him ranked in this system, at least with the Athletic, I have him at 4. So I'm okay taking him, especially when people are like taking Adam Fox and stuff. Like I've seen it where people just take Adam Fox before Rasmus Dahlin for whatever reason. Like, he's 17. That happened here. What am I even saying? Like it just happens, and I just say, oh, okay, that's good on you, buddy. Am I gonna take Montour? Let's debate that for a second. Montour is nowhere to be found. Don't have any good correlations. Running out of time. You know what? I'll take Nugent Hopkins. It's obviously not ultra strong with Draisaitl, but I'm still convinced. I'm still not convinced that the lines Edmonton are running now are exactly what we're going to see the entire season or to start the season. And if Nugent Hopkins does move to Draisaitl's line and is still on that top power play, that's totally fine. Like, let's remember what this guy did 2 years ago, right? I mean, I know last year 67 and 80 is just clearly not enough, but they kind of tried to make him carry his own water for the entire year, and he did well enough. But if he is back with McDavid, especially, like, then wheels up. Definitely want to get some exposure, and I'm kind of missing some because he just keeps going a bit earlier. I think because the McDavid drafters just often now taking him a bit earlier because of that correlation. But if he's in the top 6 all season long, he's on that top power play all season long, you could see some of those goals that went to Hyman that, again, he has his historic season just not getting there again and kind of going back to Nugent Hopkins. So I'm totally fine in this system, especially where, Hyman could still have all those goals, and Nugent Hopkins could still definitely peak in certain weeks on that top power play. So I like this 9-3-2. I get to this point a lot. And then I end up kind of taking a look, and there's still defensemen that I think could score, 200-ish points in this system at least. And if the right things go the right way, I think there's a couple guys I'm getting a bit more bullish on. So, at this point, I'm probably going defenseman, and then I'll go over a couple guys at the end. There's one forward I've been taking a metric ton of. If I say it, I think 4 at least, if not 5 of the drafters are watching me right now. So I don't want to give away too many of my guys. But yeah, there's a couple guys I'm certainly a little bit more bullish on that maybe some others might not be grabbing. A Horvat goal. Nice. All right, Islanders looking good for me. Washington is the one that I'm worried is going to ruin my parlay, but what can you do? You can't win them all, I do suppose. Up next, yeah, Harley goes. I mean, that was, a guy I've already mentioned I'm super duper high on, but I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over it. Well, there's Gunther is the guy I'm taking in the absolute last pick, but not the forward I would have the highest right now. Yeah, definitely not at this point. But I'm going to grab a defenseman first because I think it's just kind of we've gotten to that point. Yeah, 3. I'm gonna actually take Luke Hughes. I know he's injured to start the year again. Oh, there's Matt. Hi.
Howdy.
Just finishing up here. Yeah, took Luke Hughes here. Might be injured to start the year, but I'm not that worried. And I'm gonna grab my Justin Falk correlation and get to this 9-5-2 spot. There's a few forward. I was just talking about a couple forwards on this list that I really, really like in this scoring system. And yeah, Gunther, there's a few. If they get picked, I'll just say it. Guys that I'm getting overexposed to, but right now, I just was talking about a couple things. I'll get your take on them if you're ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is Nugent Hopkins kind of undervalued? I know it might not make a lot of sense with Draisaitl, but like if Edmonton is what we think they could be, and he is with McDavid or goes back with Draisaitl, is this maybe a correlation to keep an eye on, or just maybe McDavid boost him up even higher?
I mean, it seems like this scoring system more heavily rewards like points than underdog, which is, shots and goal driven, relatively speaking. So the assists that RNH can pick up on the power play, it makes sense. Yeah, I've made it clear across several streams now, but I tend to believe that the power of correlation is not on ice correlation. It's that the schedule and the basically the team level dynamic is sort of what drives that. It's not, oh, McDavid's going to play with Jeff Skinner, which obviously we haven't seen that play out yet in the preseason, so that's kind of funny. But like, so I'm going to do that. It's more just like, oh, I think this team and this power play are going to do really well, and so
There's the
if they start out hot, then obviously RNH is staying there. Now, if they struggle, then RNH seems like he's the first to go. But if they're struggling, Draisaitl probably is having a rough go of it as well. So, yeah,
well,
I
there
don't
and
think
there.
that's
Yeah,
a bad
this is
thought.
the player I was hinting at the most. I think Kadri's one of the more mispriced players in the entire format. But again, the reason is just no one wants to stack Calgary, which I get. But I'm going to be probably overweight on a guy like Nazem Kadri. They're centering him around the best players. I like him a lot, so I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, so I'm normally going with 1-1-1. I like a lot of goalies that are left. I'll show you my roster again, Matt, just so you see it. But I did get Ottinger and Sorokin pretty far down the line. Sorokin continues to fall, which I do understand. But whatever. I think I'm gonna grab my last forward here, and I made. Oh, Gunther went. Welp, you want to convince me to take Michkov?
Why would I need to convince you? Yeah, like
I'm
he's
just gonna
an
do it.
incredible prospect. You could take McCann. I don't have a huge like deference there. Like I think McCann's value is rising as we see it more and more likely that they roll Beniers and Bjorkstrand as part of a true bona fide first line. The time on ice projection, I think, for McCann is going to be higher than his career averages. So either one of those guys, I would have been totally fine with. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not going to
yeah,
say anything bad
I'm
about
gonna run the
Mishkov.
I'm gonna run the two goalie team. Just I forgot that I kind of wanted to take Gostisbehere here, and if I'm betting on Sorokin being ready to go, and both of these guys stonewalling, like if another goalie is scoring, I probably made a mistake. So I just don't
I,
care enough to say screw it. I'm gonna what?
I don't know where you come to that conclusion.
Well, last year, multiple teams that scored in the top five had two goalies, and I think that that's actually something that's worth considering. So I'm gonna have a couple of them. Like, I don't think it's that you. I don't know. You disagree?
Yeah, well, yeah, I firmly disagree because in looking at the regular season results and underdog, like the third goalie scores, 20-25% of the time. And like, yeah, obviously you can just use your second best scorer if you're, theoretically removing a third goalie, but it's not like even on a playoff team, I should say, it's not like, it's not like teams that didn't make the playoffs that were bad teams, their third goalie scored 50% of the time because they sucked. And then, whatever. It was, across the board, playoff team, non-playoff team, you scored like 20% of the time. And goalies, I think, are really, really dependent on the schedule. And even the star goalies, will have 1 start, 2 start weeks purely based on the schedule alone. So I don't think we're seeing any 65 start goalies in the league this year. I think UC Saros is one guy who you could possibly see that happen with, just given his history and the team and, Barry Trotz's history. But yeah, I don't think sacrificing the third goalie to get, whatever, a 12th forward makes a ton of sense. Just thinking of pure upside, chasing, that number one spot. If you have a bad week because you have 2 total goalie starts, you're getting passed by, a goalie versus what are the odds that extra skater, contributes in that specific week. It just feels really thin. But yeah, I don't have drafters data. I haven't looked at
I
anything, so that's all just
I think the
my thought.
difference is that I'm drafting like two goalies that have 65 start upside comparatively to.
I just don't think they do. I don't think that's the NHL
Okay.
anymore. I think 55 is a reasonable projection for both, and maybe if you're lucky, 60.
Yeah. I'm just gonna stop sharing for a
And
second. I probably have that might be my second or third team where I think probably my second team where I've done that, but I'm gonna have a couple of them. I think it's sort of like if you actually like, I think if this was like 10, 15,000, like a lot of times that the winning team would have that. Honestly, like it would be way more common than not where you're taking this last goalie that's Joey Decord, for example, that's still on the board. It's like, I don't know. I could think on this more, but I think it's probably right to take 3 goalies more often than not. But I think that like the actual peak case is gonna tend to lead to 2. But now I'm losing my train of thought as I'm trying to pull up best puck. You want to jump in to a draft and then we'll go
Yeah,
from there.
sure.
All right. All right. I just clicked enter.
6 more.
Okay, waiting. Yep, waiting on 6. 5. So let's, if you want. Oh, I didn't add the thing. You want me to do the stupid thing or no?
I don't care. No.
Okay.
This is a good transition.
Welcome to the Morning Skate podcast segment. Oh, 3 more.
Yeah, it's number 1 on the it's the front page of Underdog. So hopefully we get some actual donkeys in here to look at and not just 10 other nerds like us who are actually paying attention to things and draft smart.
Slow drafts have been a lot easy. I will say that.
Yeah. I'm guessing every draft has been a lot easier.
Hunter Shepard really didn't do it tonight, did he?
And no, he has no interest in stopping the puck. And actually, he scored on himself. So
that's what you were telling me. Well, the Islanders winning would be good for the Bags. So we will just accept if they could just finish that off. That would be.
Yeah, it does. It looks like every save so far has been credited to Montembeault, but he got pulled halfway through the second. So those people will be falling back down the leaderboard. So I don't think we're going to lose goalie by 1 billion, fortunately enough.
I mean, I was never playing any bum butt.
Yeah, Jake Sanderson has a goal, 5 shots and 2 blocks through 2 periods. So
so I'm not winning. I'm not.
Yeah.
Not winning. Okay, I just want to pull this up on the do what I did last time and not. So once it's ready, I will be ready to actually make it full screen and we can have the thing. Okay, yeah, let's.
So I mean, I'm joking. I'm joking about things like, but if you are watching this and have no idea what we're talking about, DraftKings does offer preseason NHL contests. Everyone's the same price. I put together a sheet every day that basically outlines the top 6 and the top 2 D pairs for each team and try to capture all that information. I include with it some of their rate adjusted stats, age adjusted, and also their junior profile. So like, rookies, or not rookies, but true, prospects getting a look, things like that, I think are super valuable for the preseason. So even though we're going to lose tonight, doesn't mean that this isn't a bonanza, EV wise, as far as, you can't get much down on the preseason, of course, but if you are interested in grinding, I do think there's a pretty clear edge to be had. I know DJ won 2 GPPs last year.
So if I can do it
anyway, hop in the Discord if you're interested in that, just as a little plug. Link is in my manifesto somewhere, or just send us a DM. Easy enough to get a link from us. We learned the hard way. Posting it on Twitter just invites a bunch of bots who try to scam you, so I won't be doing that anymore.
Oh, didn't even know that happened. Let me try this.
Anyway, you liking taking 2 centers pre-round 8 and Underdog lately? Sure. I don't think it's a huge problem. I think where you start to run into trouble is where you start taking 3 or more centers and defensemen before, round 9 or 10 or so. It's just because wing and goalie dry up really quickly. Goalie more in particular. Wing, we've gotten a decent amount of depth to the position just with some news that's broken and that we've covered. I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the centers from last year being transitioned over to the wing position properly. Just makes wing much more accessible in, the 120s to 140s. There are actual players, and even in the last round where you're like, yeah, that guy could very well be line 1 power play 1. So taking 2 early centers is fine. Taking no centers, I think, is a little thin, but it's still probably fine. But I would definitely make sure you get an alpha D and an alpha, goalie in there. Like, don't take 6 wings. Like maybe last year was possible you could win like that. I don't think this year, just given what you're trading off. That's a great strategy. The full hero wing strategy, I guess, if you want to call it that.
I think I'm going to do this. I like this screen the most. I got to figure out how I can like crop this, but I don't know how I could do that really.
You can't get the last team on the page. Who is it?
Remember, it
it's
won't let
Joey. You
me.
got to get Joey on the screen.
I know, but then it's like too small. I feel like. Is it too small? I can't tell. It doesn't
I
look. It
mean,
definitely does look too small on like a full screen.
yeah, it's not great, but I don't know.
I don't know what the best. Yeah, or I make us smaller. But who would want that? What about this?
Gotcha.
That seems worse. That definitely seems worse. I think by stream, I think yeah, probably by our 9,000 stream, I think I'll figure it out. Oh my god! Since I've started on the clock in 4 slow drafts, let's check drafters too. Nothing there, thank God. But yeah, drafters is flying 2340 of 5,000 now on drafters, so well on the way. Definitely looking to get to 50% here pretty soon. Underdog made a pretty big push today. I mean, 42%. That's like 3%, I believe, on the day. Yeah. It's going to need a lot more than that, though. It was at 39 to start or 38. I can't remember now. So either 3 or 4%.
Yeah. We hit the 5K mark a few days ago now, maybe 2 days. I think it was 3 though. So only getting 1,000 over that stretch is not great. But now it's on the front page. People will see overlay, over the weekend, hopefully coming up. The reason I'm concerned though is because it does lock on a Friday afternoon. Last year we had the full, Saturday, Sunday, Monday leading up to that specific like opening night, 3 games. So like there's a lot more buzz. I don't think there's a lot of buzz for Sabres Devils in where is it, Prague?
Speak for yourself.
Like I just don't think that's a huge motivating factor for a Friday afternoon. So we're just losing that weekend, which is tough. But we'll see how next week goes. I mean, we could very well be in a situation where we're just doing 50 drafts in a day easily if you want to. Like if I'm doing 5 drafts at a time and spend 9 hours doing it, it's very, very likely that could be a possibility. So
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know.
I'll just say, I mean, the drafts have definitely been getting softer. This is not one of those to be expected in one of our drafts. I recognize the majority of the people in here, but I was in one yesterday and the guy started with Hello Buck and then went like Connor and then went like someone that was just completely not off the board, but it was like 3 rounds of EV. And it's just like, for why? Like, just again, I think the slappies will be coming out in droves using absolutely nothing. I've seen way more, 5 centers, 5 wingers, 4D, 2 goalie, whatever the heck it would be. Just a lot of nonsense. So I like, again, like we talked about it from the beginning that, last year it was draft early, way bigger edge, and that kind of just ended up getting there. I don't think that's definitely going to be the case this year. And I definitely am happy I spread the wealth a little bit more. And left, I think I have 45 left, maybe 46. That I can kind of use.
Well, I mean, the reason it was strong last year is because William Nylander was the league winner, and turns out if you were able to pair William Nylander with other league winners because you were getting him in round 4 or 5. I think even Phil Forsberg was a similar vein where he was just going later,
like in the 5th and 6th
early.
Rounds.
So like when those guys hit though, it's when those are the necessary players to advance, basically, overwhelmingly at the very least, you're just going to see a lot of early drafters do better because they're getting those late guys with early players, and in general, early equals better. So, I can't. A better place to look for that sort of guy, those sort of guys, is Fantasy Oracle. Mano Count MC. He's actually tracking this. I've not digested it. I've not looked at it, to be frank, but I know he's posting about it. So if you're interested in, who
Yeah.
those guys are, those risers, you could certainly go check that out. We do know that historically speaking, the across all sports, the late risers tend not to rise far enough.
Yep.
And that's just because people are so tethered to ADP, for that same reason. The fallers don't fall enough. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
worth.
yeah, we'll get into some of our a few takeaways. Number one is I think that just overall people are way smarter than they used to be, and like that's going to continue to get sharper over time. More people are going to learn how to draft correctly, how to kind of suss out some of the stuff. So I do think that like the edge of drafting early is going to go away more and more. But the other thing is, I agree with you, is that like as news comes out, people are not reacting enough, and we can kind of get to some of those pieces. Like the Demko thing is probably reaching a point where I'm only not drafting him, maybe because I already drafted too much. I'm not saying he's completely undraftable, but man, that's starting to feel bad.
I have
And
not seen anything in the last couple days, but yeah,
the
I don't think I have a single share, and I don't plan on adding to it in these next couple weeks until we see him
yeah
like, oh yeah, he's going to start opening night. Otherwise, I
the
think there's way too much smoke.
yeah, it kind of felt like until Lankinen was signed, it felt like there was a chance that this could be not that big of a deal. But when they signed Lankinen and they're now kind of committing to, yeah, we can play three goalies, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, uh, mm. So yeah, I think it's kind of getting to that point. I mean, you just took Sorokin, so I'm guessing you're not too afraid of the, Sorokin's not practicing yet stuff, but Wad did say he should be ready to start the year, so I'm not that worried about it
Yeah.
either.
Even if it's like a week, I'm not worried about it. Like he's there. He's not Jeremy Swayman or Thatcher Demko, who are just not there. So yeah.
Yeah, Hunter Shepard gave up the first shot of the third period, so
Yeah, you can stop checking his score because he's not helping you win anything.
I
It'll
really
be
I just want to
other.
see the goal against now.
The first one was hilarious.
Okay, I feel like this would be easier to find. Maybe if I go to Boston instead of Washington. I'm almost on the clock. Okay. I'm not looking at the board yet, but I'm worried that we're going to be getting to, yeah. So we're almost up, and the top ADP guy. Wait, oh, Boldly went. Okay, I was gonna say. Any thoughts on Matt Boldly?
They said he should be ready for opening night, so
They
I'm
did say
not
that.
concerned about it.
Okay, I didn't see that yet. I was reading into the, what did they say? I read today. I guess it was early in the day. It kind of made it seem like it was not as bad. So I guess that's even better. Um, yeah, I was gonna kind of point him out as a good buy on a faller potentially, but he didn't fall here. Okay, let's watch this goal quick. Yeah, that didn't look like that's what he wanted to do. Okay. Well, I'm obviously not taking Demko. I will take Sergei Bubchitsky, as he's affectionately known. Verhage
I don't think
Bubchitsky,
anyone
back to back.
I don't think anyone has called him that. I'll be honest with
That
you.
is untrue. Give me 1 second.
Besides you just now. No, I don't think anyone
Nope.
has.
This is untrue. This is slanderous.
I'm not sure what you're doing here, so
Can you see my screen?
oh, there you go.
There you
Harkening
go.
back to
And you
Columbus. That's
and you think that I'm the only one who calls him that.
I stand corrected.
There he is. We're not even gonna look at the draft anymore. I'm just kidding. All right. Oh, there goes this guy's auto drafting. By the way, I think that's confirmed on the Demko pick there. Those are all at ADP, every one of them. So that is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Swayman is probably the next guy to talk about in the concerned category. I think it gets done, but man, that's starting to feel not as good as you'd like.
Yeah, the issue is that at this point, he's certainly not starting opening night. Um, and yeah, there's no end in sight. So, uh, yeah, I I'm not really sure what more to say. It's a bad situation. I'm sure it's not fun for for him, but it's a really bad situation for Boston, who uh, even though they've comfortably made the playoffs, for the last however many years, like that margin of error is really drying up. So, um, yeah, I think it's time to officially be worried about Boston in general, like as far as like a playoff bet and everything else. I think Matt Barzell 10 spots after ADP. Thank you guys. Works for me. All right.
Yeah, Barzal, and I mean, if you were watching tonight, and as we kind of mentioned, the preseason's going on right now, so definitely consider it. It was on ESPN, so I was watching some of the first period. Rangers are going with all the big guns, and Matt Barzal was making them look like they were pylons. I mean, the guy was skating through everyone, and I know
Well,
like Truba is a pylon, but
the crazy thing is you put someone who can skate on his wing, like
yep,
obviously Hornets the
yeah,
center. You put someone else who can skate on that line, and yeah, they look pretty good all of a sudden. It's crazy how that works and how, Simone
it's
Holmstrom and Anders Lee, like, this version of
yeah,
Anders Lee, just don't
I
unlock
know,
that
yeah.
same excitement factor. So, yeah, uh,
My God,
looking good.
it really did.
The Anthony
It
Anthony Duclair last round for another year is just going to be a smash, I think.
Yep. Didn't love to see that for my lacking of Anthony Duclair bags, but certainly like to see it for the fact that I will be taking on Anthony Duclair.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um, you
and
know
we
what?
haven't seen Power Play 1, so, like, don't get too overboard just yet. We don't know what the true Power Play 1 is. Obviously, Duclair's with
Okay.
the Power Play 1 here because there's no
Well,
Nelson, no Palmieri. But, when the guy you need to pass is Kyle Palmieri, I'm pretty bullish about Duclair at least having a good opportunity to earn his way into that net front job on the Power Play.
well, I was gonna try to have a debate with Uyghur versus Sports Cider with you, but I didn't have the time, obviously. So I will grab Mr.
I
Uyghur because I've taken almost zero. And I kind of feel like the argument is, can
Sure.
Uyghur do what he did last year? He's in the same position versus can Sider do what Uyghur did last year as he should be getting a bigger position to do it? Um, I'm not sure if it matters that much. I have so much Cider that also kind of made the decision for me here when they've come together at the same ADP, which is wildly different than where they started. I just don't mind grabbing some of that. And I am going to take a look at what the Panthers are rolling out right now. Say that Verhage has been with Reinhardt and Mr. Sasha Barkov, and I'm actually going to grab him here. Just trying to get a little bit of that correlation. Feels like something that hasn't been done a ton, maybe. And then just say that Marner, Connor, Verhage, Uyghur, Bubtitsky, you know what? I'm not gonna jump way down the line to grab a winger. I've gotten a couple. I maybe was gonna go goalie, but screw it. I'm gonna grab Sasha Barkov. Any thoughts on the Panthers right now?
Um, I mean, the only thing, I mean, so it's going to be a revolving door between Verhage line one, line two. Like, I'm not, they're a really good team. It doesn't really matter to me, especially if you're talking about it in the guise of Barkov. Like, that's obviously a guy I would like to stack, regardless of whether it's 5-on-5 or power play, just because if he's truly having one of those seasons, it's probably because Reinhardt is doing it again or because Verhage's going crazy, something of that ilk. Um, but yeah, the main thing in Florida to be on the lookout for is the fact that it's been a not great run out so far for Gus Forsling. It seems like there's just straight up trying. By the way, the answer to the Uyghur or Cider question was obviously Dougie Hamilton. I really can't believe that anyone would take those two guys over Dougie. But in any case, I'll let you respond to that in a moment. But the Florida thing with Gus Forsling seems like that they're really committed to Adam Boqvist being their power play one guy. Obviously, it's been a week, who knows? But they were both in the same game, and Boqvist was on the power play one. So, that right there is a pretty good indication that, the Forsling breakout is going to be limited in some respect, because even if he's playing, 23 minutes a night, if you're not getting that key power play one job, it's really hard to, be fantasy relevant. So yeah, just something to keep monitoring, but that's the big news I think that we have so far to this point.
Yeah. We get a question here. Thoughts on stacking 3 guys, center, wing, D? Yeah. I mean, again, I think that one of the things about stacking in general is that there's many ways to do it. There's some wrong answers. That certainly isn't often a wrong answer. So sure, but I guess, if you're talking about stacking Riley, Marner, and Matthews versus stacking, Aho, Natras, and Gostisbehere. There's, it's just so team specific to me. It's where it's you probably don't need to stack Gostisbehere in this format. Gostisbehere is more relevant where power play scoring is more relevant on drafters. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to be presumptive here because I don't recognize that screen name. But if that's a question you have and you have not read my Best Puck Manifesto, I'm specifically linking the stacking one I did, but I did 3 separate ones. That'll really, I think, cover my thoughts on stacking and what makes mini stacks better than bigger stacks. I cover a lot of the thoughts in there. I posted a comment. Looks like I'm logged in as you, but whatever. It's all the same thing. So just sorry, West Ham, if you've been here, if you've read it and everything, but because I don't recognize your screen name, I will plug that. And because we're talking about my newsletter, I did just send one last night about Ovi. So if you are an email subscriber, it's all free, so sign up. But that's in your email inbox, or it's also on my blog there, or whatever, my newsletter, moods.bive.com for the audio listeners. So do check that out as well. Writing about Alex Ovechkin, who I unfortunately was not able to draft in this lobby, but that's for a good reason, I believe, because he was gone at pick 28 before Steven Stamkos, as he should be, rather than his hilarious ADP of 5 spots after Stamkos. So there's a couple plugs for the newsletter.
I don't disagree. And speaking of the Matthews, Marner, Morgan Riley, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spread the wealth a bit more here. I'm missing on goalie, but I'm okay right now. I haven't done enough of these, and I'd like to do more. And when it comes to New Jersey, I think the biggest problem with New Jersey right now is it does kind of seem like they have a very cohesive 4 guys. How they're going to deploy them exactly is a bit tricky. I think, if you're taking Jack Hughes, both wingers feel totally fine. I don't think we know for a fact what that is going to look like, but I'm kind of expecting Brad to stick with Hughes, and then we'll see where Timo lands. But Dougie is probably a smash, and I know Tom Olson's in here who will back me up on that, and I don't have enough of him yet. But again, that was coming at a time where they were going right next to each other. It was Cider, Dougie, and I kind of just led Cider, and Cider has flown up the board a little bit. And now I think, Dougie should probably come up as well because he is full go. Luke Hughes is going to miss the start of the season. It kind of feels like wheels up, and yet for some reason people are reluctant to click on him. And it might just be people that don't know puck that are literally looking at last year and saying, this guy sucked last year.
People like you who look at Mackenzie Weegar and go, yeah, that's the guy I want over Dougie Hamilton.
I have probably one other Weegar team. I don't mind getting a couple of them.
You shouldn't have done it on camera then. That's all I'm telling you.
All right, fine. You know what? I'm going to look, actually. I might have a little bit more than I think. I'm a bit too, I will say my biggest blind spot in case we're, why not? We'll talk about some blind spots. I feel like we did that one time where we talked about the blind spots we were having in drafting. My biggest blind spot is definitely ADP. I am a slave to her. What can you do sometimes? And I think if Uyghur fell far enough, I would do it, and he just has only fallen further. But let's look. Of the teams that are showing up right now, I have 6.
Fucking hell. This dude, tricky 81 is definitely autoing too. But I was gonna get Nico Heischer. Well, maybe Scott was gonna take him. But I was gonna get Nico, 10 spots after ADP to cap off the Dougie, Timo, and Heischer. The exact thing you said of where it was a center, a wing, and a D man. I wasn't gonna reach to complete the stack because once you've mini stacked, it's not again, the data shows you're not putting yourself in that much of an advantageous position, but of course it makes sense. The upsides are correlated with one another. So I really do think that the being careful with stacking, it's not the stacking's bad, it's that reaching ahead of ADP to complete stacks is probably not worth it, because the number one signal of good teams is beating ADP. Like DJ says, his blind spot is ADP. In the aggregate, getting guys who go after their ADP in your draft is a good strategy. You can see the data that's in the first Best Book Manifesto, maybe the second, I don't remember which, but it's in one of the two. The numbers are staggering. Like, it is so obvious that, like, if all you're doing is just taking the best player available, you don't need to do a whole lot more to do well. Of course, I'm on the clock, and I don't have anyone start. That's a problem. What am I
Star
looking
method
at
works.
here?
Matt confirms it. I'm just going to go back really quick to the first draft I was in. I believe it was the literal first. And I'm going to see where did Mackenzie Weegar go? Matt, would you like to take a guess?
58.
73. That doesn't seem. This seems like this was the last draft I did, and not the first draft I did, because this ADP
Wait,
is okay. Yeah, okay.
I was in that
I
first
some.
one. I can check.
What?
Are you struggling to read again?
No, I went to the very bottom of my drafts. I clicked on the draft. There's just a 0% chance that Aiden Hill went 74th in the first draft I did. Like, okay, I need to draft next.
He went 76 in the first draft. Mackenzie Weegar went at 72.
Really? He's just at the same spot. I remember him going early. Maybe I'm stupid.
Evan Bouchard went at 42, which I feel like a dunce now for passing up him at 39. But what you gonna do?
So we're at the middle of the board where I wanted to get to. Gunther went 109, so that kind of ruined the entire anticipate. You know what I'm trying to say. But Gunther stonks way up. Is Peterka stonks back up again for you, or is 118 still about correct?
Yeah, Peterka is fine. I think he's been a value all summer long. Like, I'm perfectly good with him. I think Jack Quinn stock is mega up. Like, I will be taking him in round 14. So don't even try to, don't even try to beat me to that punch. Actually, I think I promised I was going to take someone else in round 14 today. But yeah, so there's, I think, a decent amount to like about both guys, just given that they are seemingly locked into top 6 roles, power play 1. The thing I really like about Jack Quinn is, one, obviously Dylan Cousins is a good player, but having Zach Benson on that line is the perfect storm of like a good player who seems like he's really about to sort of step into that next level of being a not a dominant player, because that's a lot of expectation to put on him, but he was a really touted prospect. He was just small, and he was he made the NHL last year. Like, that alone is super impressive, but he had good impacts, and he does not shoot. He creates plays for the players around him, and so Jack Quinn having access to that at 5-on-5 plus a power play role, where it seems like he's locked into that first unit now based on what we've seen. It's really positive for him, and a big step forward in his value, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. What about Nikolai Ehlers? We saw him on the top power play. We've seen him mixing in with Connor and Scheifele. Um, kind of felt like the power play that we've always dreamt of is back together, but a little bit concerned on 5-on-5. The biggest concern for him was always who would his center be. Are you thinking that maybe them re-signing Cole Perfetti, getting him maybe into the top six could boost? Like maybe I'm just trying to convince myself that taking Ehlers here instead of a goalie was actually getting a little exposure to that 123 is fine.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna get sucked into the Ehlers thing again. I get it, of course. If he gets time on ice, he's a smash. Just how likely is that? I don't know. So
This is
yeah,
Holy War
power play is
football for
good.
me again.
Power play is good for sure. But yeah, I I don't know how many times does Lucy have to hold that football
Yeah,
before we learn our
Lucy.
lesson?
I said
I'm not
Susie.
sure.
All right, hold on. Let's take a peek here. I want to see this Islanders goal
Me.
because it still says Horvat unassisted, and that just seemed like it was impossible.
I think it was. I have it on.
I don't
Anyway,
understand. They had the okay. Well, who
I
you take?
was
You took the cord.
well, I took Seth Jones, and I had uh, Jake Sanderson starred with my Tim Stutzla pick earlier, and I just totally was talking and clicked the name, and I clicked on Seth Jones instead of Sanderson. Not a huge deal. Like I'm not like gonna cry
Yeah,
about it or anything because I do like Seth
please
Jones
do.
a lot. But I was intending to take Jake Sanderson there just to sort of cap off a little bet on Ottawa because if Tim Stützle is going to be carrying my center room like he needs to, it's probably because the power play is doing well and Jake Sanderson goes late and should put up rates and everything else. Um,
All right,
so all right,
we
I
are
need to
back.
figure out who
Yeah.
I promised I was going to be taking today.
All right. I
That's right.
I really
Okay,
liked your argument for Jake Sanderson, and I'm gonna take him there. Good argument.
makes sense.
I haven't done a
Yeah.
team like this yet. I
All
haven't
right.
I haven't done a team like this yet, and I think I'm fully committing to the bit. There's one thing about this team that is very clearly something I haven't done yet, and I could say it, but it might be obvious to literally everybody. I'll just say it. I've only taken one goalie through 12 rounds, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to take one here. I haven't done this at all, and it might be wrong, and I might just be the theme of this entire stream is DJ not taking any goalies and being punished in two lobbies instead of one. But um, yeah, I mean, I don't mind Logan Thompson, whatever, but I'm gonna just lock up the Shifley Connor Ehlers and say that that does actually get there, and that's the 5-on-5 line. And screw it, I'm gonna run with this 3-6-3-1 and see what I can grab in net that maybe ends up helping me to ship 25,000, or maybe ends up just burning 15. But I said that if you haven't taken one goalie through your first 60, 70 picks, you're doing it wrong. You haven't taken two by the end of round 10, I think you're in rough shape. But if you're drafting 150 teams, I think you can get away with one or two. Any thoughts on my
Quiet.
strategy right now?
Quiet down.
Oh, we didn't really
No,
talk
not
about
not to you,
Byfield.
DJ.
He's one Byfield right here while we have Laferriere taking over the top power play potentially. I'm not sure how much I buy it, but we'll see. I have quite a bit of QB, so I'm maybe just bag protecting a little bit.
Dingus heads. Stop saying his name. Someone's gonna troll me. Um. Anyway, not a big deal. I promised. I promised the people what I would be doing. So, um, in general, I think it's better to just follow ADP. Not get too off the board too often. But I feel pretty confident in my player level assessments. So I am going to get Jack Quinn here. Yeah, Gabe Velarde might be better than Jack Quinn. I honestly think it's pretty close. But Quinn's a really, really great option at this point. I think he's the perfect sort of he's a guy who's on a team who could be a lot better than the projections quote unquote might have him being. They could also suck again. Who knows? But I just gave the case about like who his line mates are and everything else. So I'm gonna take Quinn and
Yeah,
yeah, I will
yeah.
do
Dylan Cousins stonks maybe taking a bit of a hurting though. I was a bit
Yeah.
optimistic he'd be on that top power play, but it doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't think that makes him like completely undraftable as much as, yeah, I'm probably done.
Yeah, Dylan Cousins not looking great. Again, the thing I said about Zach Benson does boost Dylan Cousins as well, and they are a rough
Yep.
week away from hitting that. Yeah, I
Yep.
took LaFerriere. Again, promised to people I would be doing it. We'll talk about him in a minute because I do want to sort of get a little bit into his profile. But yeah, Dylan Cousins will be boosted at 5-on-5 by Zach Benson if that sticks. Again, this is a bit of camp news that I'm really high on because the Sabres are literally flying to Europe, I think right now or tomorrow. So like their preseason is basically over. So what they did starting camp is what's going to happen for the most likelihood. The other teams, they have a lot more time, a lot more runway to play around with things, to try things out, to work in rookies. The Sabres didn't have that luxury because of their early season travel. So Lindy Ruff just came in and really put things to the I think he set things up exactly how he wants to see him opening night, and thus why I'm overreacting to Jack Quinn. Whereas LaFerriere is definitely just me being a little bit braggadocious and like just planting my flag on a guy. I'm positive I'm the first guy to take him. Maybe someone took him with Vincent Trocheck, thinking that was Lafreniere. But yeah. Anyway, I know you were banging your head because Airson just went, and now you're completely cooked at goalie.
Yeah, that will do. That was it. I was like, there's no way this guy's taking Harrison here. God. I might just kick the can further down the freaking road. What's it matter?
Kreider just got hit in the nuts by a point shot, and it bounced right to Hedel for a tap in. He's down on the ice, just like laughing. That was classic.
You got your over, right?
I did, yes. My over hits, my Hedel hits, everything's great. I think I'm still losing because of Shepard. But
I mean, my DFS lineup is actually good, but Shepard is really bad. But I think I'm still gonna hopefully get there in cash because I have a lot of time remaining. I'm not sure if I'm gonna win a ton, but yeah, the only person to play Barzal, he has 2 goals, 5 shots. Whatever. Skarov goes. I wasn't going to take him. I think I just have to take the Charlie Lindgren garbage, but I don't even know. Do I just take Dostal? I mean, is Lindgren helping me at all?
I would rather take Lindgren, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
Vegas is not often wrong on situations, and his win prop is pretty high for a guy who goes this late. And again, it could be wrong because Logan Thompson is also a very good goalie. And this Shepard guy is actually he won 2 Calder Cups in a row and is not like a nobody. It's unlikely he steals the net, but it's not like if Logan Thompson goes down, Charlie Lindgren's gonna start 65 games or something. Like they would probably bring Shepard up. So like not a huge like edge there, but I do think there's a pretty decent edge in Lindgren ADP right now, going ahead of Logan Thompson, or after a larger ADP number than Logan Thompson, despite the win totals on the sportsbook.
Hey, your DFS
Harley Ghost
here, I think.
I am going to close off center with Anze Kopitar. Of course, if I take LaFerriere, it's obviously betting on this line getting off to a hot start and being good. I don't have Kempe, so like not like I'm totally maximizing that line, but there is sort of a hockey level argument to LaFerriere, and it's that he's the only right-hander of note on this entire LA King forward group. Like, it is pretty stunning. Like, you look at their roster and it's like, oh yeah, all these dudes are lefties. And so like he's already got an advantage there. But you look at some of his college numbers from his Harvard days, he was a really solid rate shooter. He obviously looked like an NHLer last year playing on that top line for long stretches of time. He got some secondary power play time on occasion. Of course, they brought back Arvidsson late in the year, so like it wasn't like they had no righties once again. But yeah, Byfield takes a huge hit if he's not on that top power play, and I cannot believe Joey took Rasmus Anderson. I was going to dunk on you and say that I preferred this defenseman over Uyghur straight up and just get a little silly with it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never guess who one of my highest exposure defensemen is. It's Rasmus Anderson. I agree with everything
Yeah,
you're
you know
saying,
what?
and I've done it many, many times over.
Yeah,
But
if we're getting
again,
stupid LA Kings, I'm just going to take Brant Clark.
here's the thing, Matt. Can I just say something quick?
Yep, go ahead.
Before you, but like they're practicing a top power play. They said very specifically that they loved how the power play finished last year. They're sticking with Mackenzie Weegar on that top unit.
Sure.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's right or wrong. I definitely don't think he's scoring 20 goals again, but like this was
Exactly.
defenseman
Like,
3 last year. Like, but yeah,
yeah.
but like, and I agree with you, but like this was defenseman 3. He's definitely come back down to earth, I think, in at least a relatively okay vacuum, especially in this scoring system that rewards his block shots, his rate shooting. I still think 70 is too high, but if you're drafting 150 teams, do you want zero exposure to a guy that last year was number 3? Like you're saying that there's no, like, you wouldn't want 5%, or well, I might get to like 10% tops. But I'm going to let you pick my last goalie before we finish this off. All right.
Yeah,
20
that
seconds.
is.
You ready? I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you pick between this vacuum of goalies. I have Korpisalo, Vladar, Stolars, Fleury, Merzlikins, a Noonan if I wanted to really go down
I
the board.
like Samsonov, I think. Korpisalo or Samsonov?
What?
What?
I took Korpisalo because I literally didn't have him in my queue, and I didn't realize I didn't have him in my queue, and I tried to go back and find him, and I missed on Ilya Samsonov because I
Okay.
pulled over like
Yeah.
12 guys, and I guess he just wasn't. I was like, where is he? And I was like, oh crap, I'm looking at my
There's
queue.
there's oh my god. The under in the Washington Boston game loses with 40 seconds left. That sucks. The argument for Korpisalo is pretty obvious. It's that it's that Swayman just doesn't show up until November, and that Korpisalo starts off hot and whatever else. So yeah, like that's why. It also, the system is pretty good, and it's the exact same argument with Samsonov. Like, Aiden Hill doesn't have a track record of staying healthy. Obviously, doesn't have that much of a track record of being a good NHL goalie either. Like, he won a cup, but that was out of nowhere. And so Samsonov has all the tools. He's going to a fantastic system in Vegas that just makes goalies look awesome out of nowhere. So I don't mind that at all. And obviously, they just cleared the deck for by getting rid of Logan Thompson as well. Like, for whatever reason, they made that trade. No idea why. But I guess they just wanted an asset for a guy they didn't think was in their long-term plans. And yeah, that leaves Samsonov with a decent shot at being the 1A, if barring injury, whatever. I don't think that's happening, but you could find yourself some usable weeks in there, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think if I could take away 3 things from this draft, or not just me, but everyone in here, if you could take away 3 notes, number 1, don't be afraid to jump ahead of ADP, especially at the end for guys you really like, because people do not adjust enough to news. We learn this in every sport. If you think about the NFL as another example, like Jordan Mason was a guy that I was absolutely piling on, and being rewarded, but not enough. Like, I think everyone is getting slapped around by best ball in NFL. But again, like, that news came out, we probably should have been even more bullish just in case of what has happened did happen. Right. And like, I'm not saying that there's a clear scenario of that. Like, maybe you could draw a comparison to Demko, but honestly, the 3 goalie situation doesn't make me feel good either. But a guy like Jack Quinn and a guy like maybe I say LeFerrier, I don't know about 14th round. Like, but
Of course not.
didn't he have like 20 goals last year? But like,
I
you could draft
so.
him. You know what I mean? Like, that's
I
I guess
so.
more the point. Like, if we get confirmation that like Landeskog is actually going to be ready to go before January, like, I mean, maybe not even January, but like November, I don't think it's wrong to take him back up to that 14th round he was going in before. On the other hand, there's some guys like Darnell Nurse that like injury concerns and other things that I just don't think he's draftable at all. Yeah, there's a lot I think you can kind of grasp at, and you could follow me. And I was showing before you joined, like, if you're wondering about stuff like Matt, and I know you're doing most of the legwork on this, but you're curating lists of all the NHL teams on your Twitter account. So definitely make sure to follow
Yep.
at Big Moods. Go to his list and you can go through the teams. So if you're thinking like, man, I haven't seen this power play yet, try to scroll through again. Some of them are there. Some of them are harder to find than others. But I'm retweeting as much as possible every day, but I am working as well, so I can't be in there all day long. That's one of my biggest takeaways. So I'll stop there and let you talk for a second and maybe take a breath.
Yeah, definitely check out my lists. They're very useful throughout the year. Just having also just having the NHL list up. Like if you have Twitter Premium and can use like TweetDeck, that's a good list to have up. I don't have it, so I can't use it anymore. But I used to do that. But just having the NHL list up, if you just want hockey content, like just filtering, through your workday or whatever, it has basically the combination of all the teams. The 32 teams are separated, but there's also a list for the NHL. And so if you're, before a 10 game slate, you just want to keep track of the news, you could just update that every 10 minutes and, give it a quick read or whatever. So that's a useful resource for sure. And send me a DM or Discord message if you see that I haven't updated certain guys or certain ladies who are in, changing roles or us getting new roles with teams, with newspapers, etc. There's never too many players or too many reporters to get information from. So we'll always take that feedback as well. I just wanted to talk about Laferriere for a second because you mentioned, he only had 12 goals, but the idea is mostly don't take him. Don't be the guy who takes 8% Laferriere because I said so. Like it's not that likely to happen. But if you want to mix him in with the Kempe or Kopitar, like one of the weeks last year where Kempe had 47 and a half, Laferriere did have a 30-point week. That's not nothing. He outscored Kopitar by 13 that week. Kopitar had 17. That was the line he was on. Like Laferriere is a shoot first player. He's not going to beat Kempe, I don't think, in the long term. But like he has that collegiate profile, and he made the team, I think, right out of college too. So, that's always it's a great sign when a player can skip the AHL and play in the top six. Like that's basically what I'm getting at. And if they're committing to Byfield at center, that's just a total runway for him to ascend into a very valuable role for fantasy alongside Kopitar and Drew Doughty and everyone else. And the power play is just the cherry on top that makes him actually best puck relevant. But certainly a name to keep on for the first couple weeks of DFS season, and also for your season long drafts. If you have deep rosters, absolutely take a look at him because he also hits. He's a bit of a he's not quite a banger necessarily, but he's a bigger body. He's I believe he had pretty decent hit rates last year. Yeah, he had 146 shots and 107 hits. So like, he can actually fill it up.
Yeah. He no, I get it. Yeah, definitely a guy. But again, I think the point is that like how many times does he actually score in this system and become a valuable asset is not incredibly high, but I don't think he's undraftable. But again, like, definitely take the news we're given, use it to your advantage. Another thing I think that I'm gonna just say again, and maybe you'll agree or disagree. I don't know, Matt. You can back me up or tell me I'm wrong. But I think if you're, especially as we're getting to the end and we're seeing people that can, if you've only done 20 teams and you decide, screw it, I have a day off, I want to try to get as close to 150 as possible. I still think, and I will, I did it last year. I'll do it every year. Like you can get weird, and you can get weird with as many teams as you want. But I like to definitely push the envelope within my portfolio and try things of this nature, where I end up drafting a team that's going to be somewhat unique, just because the Matthews team is often going to fall into the trap of taking a goalie at this 5 spot, which I did, but they're also probably pushing a Joseph Wall or pushing another. Like I just don't think that many teams will do what I did for good reason. But if a goalie like Lindgren gets there, if Korpisalo ends up stealing a bunch of run because Swayman doesn't start until, they said they have until December 1st, right? What if Swayman doesn't play until January? Like it's unlikely, but it could happen. Like, could you find this type of situation where you end up getting this very heavy winger with Matthews' team that the goaltending actually does get there enough? Like, that's kind of stuff that I think you should mix in. So any thoughts on getting weird, and if there's any ways you would want to get weird with 150?
So I mean, something that got me up the leaderboards last year was Alexis Lafreniere alongside Trocheck and Panarin. I took him plus Trocheck late in the draft. We were sort of, I believe we were pegging Lafreniere to go alongside Zibanejad Kreider. And of course, when that news came in training camp, that was one of my last teams I drafted. I just had that twosome in there. And that wound up being, Trocheck was a player you really were benefiting from taking. So that certainly helped me in my third place finish, just having that sort of camp news. And so obviously there's not going to be many first overall picks who just sort of get a weird role or an unexpected role. But like it is interesting how quickly things change. Like last year, out of over 1,000 drafts, Lafreniere was drafted 990 times.
The Rangers
Yeah, I'm
just took the
watching.
lead. I just lost.
Oh, I didn't realize it
Unfucking-believable.
was. Oh, the
It is
Islanders
five
money
to
line.
four.
That's right. That's funny. Yeah, it didn't even help fantasy wise because I didn't have the line that did all the goals. Anyway, what we're learning, Lafreniere did not go in every draft last year. He came close, obviously, just under 1,000 drafts, but there were 1175. So like, these sorts of players can just come out of the woodwork. And break out, and so keep an eye on it. Like if Shane Wright, for example, all of a sudden is centering Jared McCann for whatever the next week, like that's the sort of player that like you don't need to see it to bet on. Now, of course, again, the smaller the format like this, the less you want to be, as risky. But like, yeah, I'm definitely a big proponent of if you know what you're doing, yeah, get creative with it. Like, you follow hockey obsessively for a reason. Like, you don't need to just, oh, well, Mood says ADP is what you need. If for 12 picks, you're taking, a guy right around ADP and that 13th, you're like, I think this guy, 8 spots, I'm going to reach for it. You're fine. Like you're not, just don't do it every time. Don't do it, in the second round when you're reaching for a 5th round player. Like be smart about how you're staggering your setup. And yeah, you can definitely get creative with things. It's definitely player takes though. Track the news and yeah, just like I don't know. Don't be like DJ and lose to 3 goals on whatever, a minute and a half.
3 in a minute and a half. That is actually the worst beat of my entire life. Like, only in preseason hockey. Only in fucking preseason hockey. I don't even think I could possibly think of anything else. I shouldn't have even looked, although I would have just been as mad in 5 minutes. That might just do it for me. I don't think I could think of anything else.
If only I'd sent you the 4-leg parlay that hit for 8x.
It didn't hit.
Yeah, it did.
Capitals.
It was a
Capitals
6 on
over.
Washington, Boston. So
well,
I
did bet the Sabres. Oh, I guess you still win.
You're welcome.
But
yeah,
I did not parlay that together.
Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
do you want to be done or do you want to rip another? I don't know what your plan is.
No, I'm definitely not going to do another. I've been streaming for 2.5 or an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to get to the working on the division videos because I got to get some more shit out because I already put stuff together and I just got to finish it. But they are a grind and I've been very busy, but that is unbelievable.
Okay.
I really just lost that bet. It was
anything else you want to
left.
share before I plug some stuff and close it?
The Rangers scored again.
Yeah, again, I'm watching the game. Yeah, I
don't know. Honestly, I just kind of ran out of time, which is nothing I can really do about it. Like I just can't help the fact that time ran out too much, but I would have liked to have done more stuff, but hopefully I'm in a better spot to get more content out easier next year because yeah, this was very time consuming and I'm not that good at it yet. So hopefully I can get more stuff out. Big revamp to puckluck.com coming. Kind of never happened last year, but should be to start this year. And that's taken up a lot of time as well from Jay, which has kind of also stopped us from getting as much out as we would have liked. But He also works a full-time job, so
Yeah,
we're getting
he
there. He's falling because I leaned into it.
yeah, I saw that. He's also updating the puck luck projections, the best puck. If you have that, or if you have the annual thing, I know he updated it. I think over the weekend. So, if you're using that, if you're interested in seeing what's changed, you can obviously just export the new one and do some comparisons, and that also might be a way to sort of buy some risers. Where if Jay sees something where he's projecting a guy better, yeah, you can just use those ranks and draft or whatever, but you can also just do a quick like for like subtraction and see like who's actually increased in his projections, who's decreased, and maybe go overweight on those players. That's certainly an option, another way to use the projections. If you're interested in other thoughts, other ways to do it, we had Jay on a couple weeks ago where we talk about the projections and that process and all the math and the concepts behind it. We did a draft. Meanwhile, we didn't talk about the draft whatsoever, so it was a lot of fun. And then also, I think the week before that, I covered projections and walked through some of his projections and like how I'm thinking through things. So yeah, there's a lot of good content just here on the video feed. If you're on the audio feed, it's also in audio format, though the things I'm referencing are obviously better in video format. You can also find some pre-packaged videos that DJ's put together. Not streams, but like actual content, like he's saying. He's done a lot so far, so yeah, he'd like to do more. But there's multiple videos for you to go check out. If you have an hour to kill and you want to get hyped for fantasy hockey season, this is a great place to start. So just scroll back the YouTube feed and find his videos from the last month and a half. You can read my newsletter. I just sent out something today about Alex Ovechkin. No one got too mad at me for it. So, maybe I made some good points. Maybe I've just, convinced everyone that Ovi's the greatest hockey player to ever live, which, I'm
You're
closer to believing than most
boosting
of the
his stock too
population.
much, sir. Oh, I just realized you're
Clearly
right.
not.
I did bet all
Clearly
bets,
not.
and they did all hit. Sorry, I'm just licking my wounds right here. I can't believe how much that was frustrated me. It was literally $25. I should just move on with my life. I just can't believe that actually happened. But and you also boosted his stock in our draft, and now all the OV slappies like myself are just going to be worse off because of you having to make people smarter. Your
Yes,
incessant
it is.
need to
It is
help
such a
people.
curse. It is. I mean, yeah, it's such a curse. I can only hope that when I get to the pearly gates, they go, well, actually, you made Ovi's price go up by 4 spots in ADP, so down to hell for you. And then I realized that God's just a degenerate gambler too, and everything will come together.
He's literally going to be mad at just the New York Islanders goalie, however you say his last name.
I have
Timitov
no
or
idea who the
whatever.
backup was. Well, who was it?
It was someone that like I actually had heard of, and now I'm forgetting. Tinkinen, that's right. Henrik, like the people like this guy like as a prospect, I guess. He's 23, Finnish goalie. Tinkinen. Well, I hate him forever. He has officially dead to me.
Is he in the Eric Comrie camp, DJ?
Can you just tell me, please, that the goals were like not all his fault?
Yeah, they were total redirects, like all of them.
Okay, cool.
Like
I feel better now. You know what?
Yeah, through bodies, through
honestly,
screens, whatever.
I'm not even mad at like in reality, like it was literally $25. It's just I didn't want it to distract me, and I just wanted it to be over. And the fact that it wasn't over and then it ended like that just threw me for such a loop. But yeah, no, I mean, the problem is when we do these streams and they go on to like 2.5 hours, my eyes legitimately can't handle all these lights for like 2.5 hours, and I will be bloodshot the next day.
You do realize we would have been out of here 10 minutes ago had you just not
crying?
done the thing that you did.
As in cried?
Okay. Yes, that exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah. Actually, let's talk about. Let's talk about. No, I was kidding. No, let's end the stream, and then
No, please. If you want to talk, let's talk. I'm here. I'm here.
No. Oh, Thursday. Yes, that's right. I remember the thing I was going to talk about now. I'm not sure if Mano's in here or not. We're going to do a draft on Thursday. Forgot to mention that. I forgot because I said like, yes, let's do it. And it completely came out of my brain until right before I started. So 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. We're gonna do it on my channel actually because he's like that actually just is easier. Yeah, Thursday the 26th, 8 p.m. That's right. I was like, why am I blanking on the thing that I definitely planned on doing? And that was it. And then yeah, other than that, I'm hoping to Friday night put out one, if not both, the Central and the Pacific, but I doubt I get both. But tonight I'm going to get every single one of the video parts together, and then I'm going to record it tomorrow. Most of it, I'm going to try to pound through as much as possible, but again, it's just hard to edit and get ready. But by the end of the weekend, I will have both the Central Fantasy Preview and the Pacific. And then the last video I want to do, which I'm waiting until kind of the last minute on purpose, is to do a favorite bet for each team, whether that's in fantasy, whether that's in, Lindy Ruff for the Jack Adams, as I already discussed for the Sabres, whether that's, a player over under points to make the playoffs, to win the Stanley Cup. I guarantee it won't be, but yeah.
How about how to profit off of each team this season? There's your name.
But I won't be because I just bet the Islanders to beat the Rangers in preseason and lost. So
how to profit on 31 NHL teams this upcoming season? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I cannot believe we've gained viewers in the last 3 minutes as we careen to a halt here.
I mean, yeah, I think, you know what? I will say that I think a lot of the takes I'm going to have are going to be incredibly fantasy relevant, though, because, again, like in reality, the bet on the Islanders is that every single media member, other than I think us, which we don't count, but every person I've heard talk about hockey, even people that are smart, still think the Islanders are this boring garbage team. They're not as boring as they once were. The math would back that up. And their exciting players are really good. And for some reason, they just don't get drafted like that. And I think we've made the case for Dobson. We've made the case for Barzal. I've made it extensively. And then, you know what? I do remember the last thing I wanted to do, and we could just do it really quickly as we close this out. This is actually be interesting, is we'll do one center, one winger, one D, and one goalie that we really like at their ADP, and one that we don't like. And then let's close this out.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm trying to see what I've posted in the Discord because as we've gotten news, I've been like posting.
Yeah, I think it's actually somewhat relevant. I am going to pull up my exposures really quickly. I will start with center and just say Mark Scheifele. He's actually tied now for my highest exposure, I believe. That last draft actually might bring him above. But I just think this is a guy that, for whatever reason, has gotten forgotten about. It's like, who's going to be this, power play and this first line? And, well, Scheifele is. He's going to be on both of them. I think if Connor stays healthy, Velarde, or really Ehlers, if they all kind of stay healthy, they can all kind of get there together. I don't think this is a team that's going to be extensively boring. And last year, it's like, I think the fall apart in Winnipeg was much more to do with injuries, in my opinion, and maybe just not being fully healthy than it was the lack of skill that was there. And I don't know if there's anything that would lead me to believe that they're actually infinitely worse, as the books are saying, as most people are just kind of saying, like, oh, they could be the team that's out. Like, division's tough. It's like, well, how much tougher? I get Nashville's good now. They made the playoffs last year, but like, how much better are they going to be defensively? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of buying on this Winnipeg team in droves, just because I think the offense will be super highly concentrated. Same with the Islanders, to be honest. Did I give you enough time?
I really do like that. Also, we have news from today that's relevant that Mark Scheifele seems like he'll be killing penalties this year too. Which, never a bad thing.
What a drafters. Yeah. He 2 points for a short end to go on drafters. So, like, I said that actually. I was like, hey, like Scheifele and I mean, these guys are gonna play like 23 minutes a night. That's my thought process. Like, we don't know that, but like, it could happen.
The other thing about Mark Scheifele that gets really overlooked is that he's immensely frustrating for fantasy, on a daily basis, because he's very boom or bust. He doesn't shoot much, but he scores a bunch. And that's because he's one of the most efficient players in league history. Like, you look at the top ranked shooting percentage players, and it's like, Braden Point's up there, obviously Kucherov driven. Mark Scheifele, Steven Stamkos, arguably Kucherov driven. But like these guys who are active are up there. Mark Scheifele's right up there with those guys. And that's not a fluke. He's been in the league for, a decade now. So um, it's pretty telling that like, you get his spikes and you don't have to get his floors. And that's something that I really like about drafting Mark Scheifele in this format versus playing him in DFS, where, we call him Fat Mark in the Discord. Well, Matt does, and we've just sort of co-opted it from him.
People call,
But like the idea is that he's not predictable on a night-to-night basis, but he's gonna score goals. He's gonna do everything for that team, so he's gonna have some fantasy relevant weeks and some spikes. So I do like that a lot. I guess at ADP, it's maybe a player I'm hoping to get more of, and I think Bo Horvat, for all the reasons you mentioned with the Islanders. I just don't feel like I have enough of him right now. He, I guess, is just going before I've been able to click on him. But you made the point for the Islanders, so I'm not gonna bludgeon it to death. But it does seem like Duclair is really gonna help that line at 5-on-5. So I think Horvat makes a lot of sense, toward the back end of your center pool. So do you have a wing in mind?
Well, we were going to do one that we're not drafting at their ADP as well, and that will be for me Braden Point, who you kind of mentioned. I just wonder if the concentration of offense is, honestly, I think it's just ADP specific. I don't even think he's that bad. I have him in one draft right now.
Yeah, I want to take back something. I want to add Dylan Strome to that mix. Obviously, I just wrote the Ovi article, so like I want to take Ovi. But it does seem like through camp so far, Dylan Strome has been playing with Ovechkin. The line today was basically their second line: Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tom Wilson, and Connor McMichael, leaving Strome and Ovi to play together. Those two, Strome and Ovi are basically running the power play at this point with John Carlson. So those two are going to be glued at the hip. And if you're betting on Ovi getting Dylan Strome in the last round as a player who's not drafted in every draft to this point, I think that's a colossal win for a team that to close last season had the fourth best power play over the last half of the season. Like, it's just wins all around for Dylan Strome. So there you go. Who I'm not taking.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's lots of players.
Yeah, I haven't taken a lot of Braden Point, mainly just ADP specific. And like when I take Kucherov, I'm trying to get him a couple times, and it just never happens. Like people just take him incredibly early.
How about Vincent Trocheck? That's a guy who I'm not really taking. Just kicking dirt on him after he won me 8K last year or whatever for finishing third. But I just straight up prefer Nico Hischier, John Tavares. They go right after him. Who else goes there? I guess Horvat. I have more Horvat than him. Nazem Kadri and Nick Suzuki I even have more of. So like I'm just not taking Trocheck. It's not that the finals are that concerning. If he gets to the finals, he has 5 games total across the 2 weeks, which is not good. So I'm not trying to inflate that. But when he goes ahead of those guys and there's the finals worry, I'm just gonna sort of punt it. I'm not drafting Panarin and ADP either. So like why correlate? Why not correlate those bets against just that second line redoing what they did last year? So yeah, there's a guy I'm not taking.
Yeah, it's funny that my 2 highest exposure wingers are Kyle Connor and Matt Barzal. I feel like I've fully filleted them this entire show, so I'm going to go with someone else and go with Kevin Fiala. We talked a lot about LA. We talked a lot about that top line who you drafted a ton of. And I'm just sitting here, I feel like hoovering up quite a bit of Fiala, who I still could see at 5-on-5 with Quentin Byfield, who will only help produce more in his game. But more so, I just think he's not going to be on that to no line. He's not going to be in a shutdown role. We'll see a ton of looks on the power play. And while it may be a bit of a feeding Kempe situation, I do think he's the second guy to shoot in all circumstances. Laferriere does have a propensity to shoot as well, but seemed like more of a net front presence, more of your like Velarde in this situation. So yeah, I've been kind of jamming Kevin Fiala quite a bit. I have his autographed jersey right over there as well, so I'm a bit of a slappy, but he just seems like a guy that like there's no reason he should be going as late as he does. Like I like him more than most of the wingers in that range, your Tucks and your I don't even know, Raymonds or whoever go there.
Yep, all good points. How about I feel like did you talk about Gunther on early whatever. Let's just talk about Dylan Gunther
Just
real
talking.
quick. So Dylan Gunther seems like if you go to Daily Faceoff, it's just going to show up as being on their fourth line, but that's just not true. Like, I mean, this guy was on the power play one. He was killing penalties, and he was, getting a quality 5-on-5 time on ice last year. And his role right now looks like it's not changing much. Okay, Daily Faceoff has updated us that Logan Cooley's their second line center, but for a while they had Bukestad or Kraus as that second line, and then whoever Kerfoot, I think it's the third center. So Logan Cooley is a breakout candidate, obviously. A third overall pick. Could take that sophomore leap, and he's the sort of player who, if he hits, he's going to drag someone along with him. Like he's not going to do it all himself. He's not going to be a Connor Bedard type where he's the one scoring the goals. Dylan Gunther in his own right is a fantastic prospect. There's all sorts of juniors data out there, and I'm sure I've shared it in the Discord as well. But get him while he's rising, because he's going to rise. He just signed an 8-year deal worth, I think, $50 million. They're hitching their wagon to him. I'm hitching my wagon to him. And he's going to be power play one. He's going to kill penalties, and he's going to play, 18, 19 minutes a night with great shot rate and super talented goal scorer. So, yeah, Dylan Gunther.
Okay. We got to speed run a little bit because number one, I have to ask you a DFS question, and we have 3 minutes. And number two, as I said, I'd watch a show at 10 that I forgot about. So player I'm not drafting is Chris Kreider. Just don't believe he's going at the right spot. Don't believe he's going to score like he used to. Don't think that that's the line I want to be targeting on the Rangers. I get Riley Smith might be fine, but I don't think that's the reason the Rangers get there, although Panarin is being evaluated for an injury as we close out the show after the preseason game, so I guess we'll keep an eye on it, but no idea what happened there. What do you got?
I'm going to go with let's just take. I don't have much Matthew Tkachuk in that first round. I don't really see why he's deserving of being a first round pick. So yeah, not a huge fan of him relative to the other goats up there.
All right, we have 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you a DFS question quick. Should I swap off of Toffoli because I'm down 10.1 into 33, or do we have no idea if this guy's going to play Toffoli because there's like Besser and stuff, and just keep Toffoli with Wallman? Because if the goalie gets there, Wallman can catch the 10. All right. Hoping it's not, but yeah, I can still catch the 33. I didn't even realize that. That actually could be doable. Okay. Back on track. Defense. I'm just going to give my high and low and not too much reason, but one guy that I did take in that draft, and I'm probably going to get more of, is Jake Sanderson. Just agree with everything you're kind of saying when you wanted to take him and you didn't get him. And yeah, I'm going to continue to kind of grab him in that same window where I think there's a lot of value. There's most of the guys I'm drafting the most of, your Hannafins, your Forslings. Sanderson goes a bit before them, and I think it's very just. Like, he did have really good rates. He does actually block the puck. I think over time, as he gets a little bit more acclimated into the league, he'll only, produce more in those rate camp categories. And like, if Ottawa's getting there, I think he just is absolutely going to be a big catalyst of success. I mean, he was a very highly touted prospect.
Yeah. I will go with, I like Noah Hannafin as a guy who I was the Shea Theodore guy last year. I'm really bullish on Hannafin and his chances to, sort of break out as a part of that Vegas system that just prioritizes D-scoring so much. Let's see. And I guess I'm not taking Mackenzie Weegar, and scroll back earlier in the show if you missed it, because we had a big discussion about Mackenzie Weegar. I have 0%, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, he is, if you look at my list of players, Weegar's like right there at the bottom, and the top is Noah Hannafin, so I can't disagree with anything you're saying. Yeah, I mean, one guy I'm very low on that gets drafted a lot is every defenseman at the top of the queue, because I've just not been taking them other than like some Makar and some Yossi when they fall into my lap, but that's rare. Other than that, I've been pretty low on all of the guys at the top. So I think just, again, I like the window later on. I don't think you're giving up all that much. And let's finish it with goalie because it's 10 and I said I'd be out of here. Goalie I'm drafting a ton of, and you are as well, as Darcy Kemper. I think we've gone over that in great detail, and I don't think you even need to say your goalie, because if it's not Darcy Kemper, you're a liar. I think you've taken him in 95% of drafts. And a goalie that I'm not taking is Dustin Wolf. I have 2%. I will not be taking any more of him. He is probably the third goalie behind Devin Cooley at this point. So,
yeah, fair enough. Let's see. I'm hoping to get more UC Saros. I think I'm coming around to him being the number one goalie in fantasy this year. And that's mostly a bet on his workload. I don't really care about how good the team is, good or bad, because I'm not super, bullish on their offensive additions. So there's a guy I'll be trying to get more of. And then a guy I'm really pumping the brakes on is, I agree if you're Dustin Wolf, but I'm getting a little worried about Bobrovsky. Just reading about Spencer Knight, seems like he's going to, just be available and be a quality goalie. And after a cup run, like, I don't know, Bob's getting older. So I'm keeping a close eye on news, on coach speak. But if Bob gets, 48 starts to Knight's 30 something, like that feels likely, in the range of likely outcomes. And I don't think Bob pays off his price tag with that sort of workload. So there you go. Well, I was plugging things to get out of here when you decided to bring this topic up. So I'm just going to quickly say, check out the rest of this YouTube channel. Check out the Morningscape podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that. There will be some content on there, that's not on here, especially as we get into the regular season. And then check out my newsletter, moods.beehive.com. I had an OV article go out this morning that is in your email inbox if you're a subscriber, or online if you are not. And please do subscribe when you get there. It's free, and you'll enjoy it if you liked this video. So, DJ, thank you. You may go.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
So, from Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good best puck frenzy, everybody, and we will see ya.